Hello everyone, this is Super Comic Girl, and so I'm redoing this video because I realized I made two mistakes in the video, and I want to make sure that I don't get a comment go, oh, that's the wrong name of the character, and all this stuff and everything. So before I begin, there's going to be spoilers for the second episode of the third season of Picard. If you have not watched the second episode, please do, and then come back and listen to my review. So, one of the things I want to say that I did not mention in last week's review is we get this kind of feel that that we're being introduced to a lot of like the next generation of characters who are related to the original Enterprise D crew members. And of course, we've met Kestra in the first season, but we also encountered like LaForge's daughter and Beverly's son and all that type of stuff. So yeah. So one of the weird things that Riker and Picard encounter, and this is from the previous episode, is that Beverly has a son. And no idea, like, when she had him and who the father is and all this stuff. But Riker is very observant. And this really shows the qualities that made him a good choice to go up into the rank of captain. Riker is able to see little character traits, little actions that remind him of someone. So for instance, if he's been around say somebody for so long and somebody who's much younger acts literally identical to that person, he can get a really good idea of who that person might be related to. So we get Shaw, who is this asshole, and he literally wants to leave the medical ship behind because it's a pretty big ship that the medical ship is up against. And Seven and, of course, the bridge crew are not exactly comfortable with leaving an admiral and a captain on board of a ship. And it kind of illustrates that they don't view Shaw's decision to be in the best interest. And it's like, him having to explain to Starfleet Command, oh yeah, I left the admiral and captain to die, and because we're an exploratory ship and we don't do firefights and all that type of stuff. The weapon that she uses, that Plummer's character uses on the Titan, I have never in my life seen it. This thing can take an object and throw it at another ship, going right through their shields, and it is so devastating. And Deck 11 got it. Deck 11 got. I don't know if it's supposed to space, but they got it. So so they managed to transport these 4 people on board the ship. I must say, when I got a look at sickbay, I was like, wow, this is such a beautiful, we really didn't see much of sickbay. We just see probably a corner of it, but it's absolutely beautiful. And I like the chief medical officer's uniform. It was so beautiful and so elegant. I just loved it. It was just really really elegant type of thing that I saw. Um, was it? Trying to think. Was it? Anyways, I did have the name on the tip of my tongue. Totally forgot it. I just like. Let's see here. Rafi. I'm sorry, guys. So, Rafi is in her own little, has her own little storyline, and she goes to sector, I think it's sector 6, I think, I might be, is that sector 6, or is it sector 11? Sector, anyways, one of them. And, she's part of Starfleet intelligence, and she's trying to find out about this, and it's kind of she gets kind of annoyed, and she gets kind of like very, very angry at her handler, who we later on find out is Worf, and he appears basically to save her ass. So we see Worf for the first time, in this in the show. We also find, I'm not going to mention the Ferengi guy's name because I will probably end up laughing for about 15 minutes. But anyways, yeah. So we also find out, a little bit more about Jack Crusher, that he's basically not following the rules, and his mother's with him and everything. No idea why she wasn't when he was doing that thing that he was doing. But we find out that he is wanted, and it kind of calls back to Bloodlines when Picard encounters a young man that he thinks is his son, but also that Damon Bach actually, he did something to his DNA and all that type of stuff. So you have the same situation where you got a young man who's Beverly's son, who is not a law-abiding citizen, that he will do everything in his power to ensure that people get the medical treatment that they need to get. And we also, we find out like why, he's been hunted by these rangers and all that type of stuff. And it was interesting, and Shaw doubts that he's Beverly's son because of all the stuff that he's done and everything, but it doesn't matter what he's done, he's still Beverly's son. And so the captain gives them an hour to basically hand him over, but Riker suspects, and I haven't heard other people who've been doing reviews of the show mention it, but Riker suspects that even if they hand Jack over to this woman, there's no guarantee that she's not going to destroy the ship. That's what he kind of suspects, that's what she's probably going to end up doing anyways. So the thing that really, Riker's saying, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Basically, he suspects that Jack is Picard's son based on his mannerism, based on these traits that he's seen in his former captain. And there's he's another thing that really kind of sold it to a lot of people, that yes, Beverly and Jean-Luc had a sexual relationship and all this stuff, was a little slip of French, and that wasn't mentioned in one of the reviews that I watched. But he did a little bit of like French words. He also knows about the chateau, which means that there is probably a very good chance that Beverly told him that, this is who your father is. And even the actor who plays him said that, he's been trying to push that away. He's been trying to basically ignore who his father is. I do not like it when they put on those things like was, like, oh, so he's dead? I think all the Wikipedias do that. They go was instead of is, which kind of makes you wonder about the status of their being on this plane of existence. So I mean, I think that I get the impression that Picard sees that there's a chance that Jack is his son, but it's that moment then Beverly comes on the bridge and she's being led daintily and easy, like what I did with my mother, and really taking consideration about like, how she's feeling and stuff. And before I go on that, I want to say something. The new hypo sprays are cool. I don't know if anybody's noticed that. Those hypo sprays is so freaking cool. It's sleek and silver and metallic and just really, really beautiful. And it's nice to see the upgrade on the hypo spray. And so, Beverly comes on the bridge and they don't say anything. And this really illustrates, I think, Patrick's ability to convey a line without actually saying anything. And the moment that their eyes lock, it confirms that, yes, Jack is his son. It also makes it a very clear-cut decision for Shaw. Since Jack is Picard's son, he's a Federation citizen, and you have to protect them. So, so he basically hands it over to Picard, so that way if he gets into trouble or he dies, Shaw, they can say, oh, it was Shaw that did it. And Picard does a classic, I don't know if people notice this, but he goes into the nebula. And it goes all the way back to Best of Both Worlds, when the Enterprise hid in a nebula to avoid the Borg sensors. And sure enough, as soon as they get deep enough into the nebula, this ship's sensors just stop working. It's like, we've lost them. She thinks that Picard is going to be very easy to catch, because she's looking like, yeah, I'm going to get Jack Crusher and probably kill him and take the money. But it also is, it was like a really interesting episode, and you can get the impression, you feel it, that Picard, I don't know if I'm right about this, but he still hasn't stopped caring about her, and this is an entirely different level than was, say, his girlfriend. They have, it's their dynamic is a lot different now than it was in The Next Generation. Their parents, they had a kid together, And it puts that relationship into a much different kind of context than it ever was in the past, because it's like it's something that he can't turn his back on. He told her, I don't need a legacy, but there's a legacy like right in front of him, and he basically cannot ignore the fact that he now has a legacy that he never intended to have. And I thought that was a really interesting thing, and I really enjoyed this episode a lot, and it was a lot better than the second episode of the last two seasons. There's a lot of like emotional thing, and also it really shows Patrick Stewart's acting and his ability to really show, I can still portray Captain Picard or Admiral Picard in a way that people that have grown up with Next Generation recognize and say, yeah, he can still act like the Picard of the Next Generation. And I think that and no offense to his acting, but how he acted in the first two seasons was nothing like how he acts in this season. He didn't use any of his negotiation skills, none of that. But in this one, we are seeing that he still has the ability to negotiate. He still has the ability to lead, and it's just a really great episode. So next week we'll begin another one, and it doesn't matter if I gotta work. I will manage to watch the third episode of Picard, and I'm just really psyched about it and everything. So I will be seeing you guys around. I hope you guys enjoyed this wonderful review. I give this episode 5 stars. It was just phenomenal all the way through. So I'll see you guys around. Bye.